And I think, yeah, we are
We're live.
live.
Is it live or is it
Yes.
memory?
So
Think it's live
welcome
now.
back, everyone, for the next portfolio career. And we have an amazing lineup for you because we have 𝗵𝗏𝗃 joining us, and we will do a little bit of intro. Yeah, she's having a party already. Found out that she used to be a DJ, so this is going to be super exciting. Karaoke DJ. We also have the normal Bex, Eileen, Iona. Iona has just said she's joining us from the 𝗨𝗏𝗃𝗏, which I love, although maybe she's just dropped off. So she's multitasking. No, I just think that's the camera that's gone down. So we are looking forward to having a very honest and frank discussion as always, but this time around a portfolio career that supersedes ageism. So that is our topic today. For those that don't know a little bit about this, before we go to introductions, let me just give you a little bit of where we're coming from and what you're going to have from us. We do no prep, as I said to them. We literally speak from a point of honesty, and the fact that we have, and I think women don't realize often, they have all the experience that they know it, right? But what we do is we invite you to our table. So depending on which side of the pond or which part of the earth you're in, it could be breakfast time, it could be dinner time, but very much it's about inviting you to our virtual table. We're having an honest conversation, and we're going to navigate around what changed for us in terms of the portfolio career with a little sprinkling of ageism. So what do you do? And now what? Because we're all around a certain age, or getting around the age, a little bit of a variation. And Rebecca and Bex and I were just saying to Deb, we've known each other for 23 years. So that's kind of showing how old we're getting. Yeah, and that really is it. And let me take the presenting completely off. Do you want to do a little bit of introductions, everyone? Maybe we start with you, Deb, for just in case it's the first time people are joining.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. And thanks again for inviting me, because I was thrilled, by the way. This is my first official panel that I've ever been on broadcasting. So yeah, I feel like I've arrived. I have arrived. So I'll try to keep it short, but like I said, I was a karaoke DJ in Houston for 3 years. So you hand me a mic and I can go for hours, loud people screaming, drinking, So I live in Minnesota, born and raised in Minnesota, don't you know? And I spent 13 years in Houston, Texas. So that's where the y'all comes from. So people in Minnesota are like, why do you say y'all? And I'm like, it's because I lived in Houston for 13 years. And I've spent some time in Europe. There was a point there during the 2009 market crash where I lost my job. I lost my home. And I was like, I had friends that I knew from online who lived in Belgium, and they're like, come live with us. And I was like, okay. And I packed everything into 2 suitcases and moved to Belgium and other parts for a while. So, but just in a nutshell, 𝗵𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃, I worked for Accenture for 24 years. And then, like many of us, I got laid off. And I had been laid off before, but somehow at my current age, which I am now 56.
Woohoo! 56 years wise.
And in the current environment, it hit a lot harder than it had in the past. And I did something different than I would have ordinarily done. Ordinarily, I would have searched for another job, making a certain amount of money, and just, bit the bullet and grind out. And I just realized, you know what? I am not up for that anymore. I am sick of the corporate game. I'm sick of a faceless organization in determining how much money I can make, how high I can go, what skills they're going to pay me for, which are not the skills that I absolutely love using. So here we are.
Oh my God, you're a treasure. Oh, who wants to try and follow that?
I'm going to do it. Yes, I'm going to do it. I was so excited to see Deb on the panel, and who invited her has done an amazing job. Just because I work in social media now, and I want to see diverse women online. I want to see content from diverse women, and I want to see women who are ahead of me, so I can have visibility of where other ways can lead to. I'm very excited to the topic of today, because as women, you have ages since you're 16. You encounter, since you're young, you're too young. Since you're 20, maybe you want to be a mom. So all your life, you will encounter ages. We have to proactively have skills We cannot change it today, but we have to have skills to overcome that. And with the rise of internet and social media, I think that we have a huge tool at our disposition if we can overcome some old stuff that have been, you know, given as a feedback over many years to us. To me, very short, and some people know me maybe from our last lives. I am originally born in Romania, in Bucharest. It was a dictatorship when I was born, but now live in one of the richest countries of the world, Switzerland. And sometimes I navigate this incredible mind of being born where I was born and being where I am today. And I'm a social worker at the beginning of my so-called career, and I pivoted after I lost my husband. Not because I wanted to, but because my whole career crashed. Even in the social realm, when I was a single mom, there was no way I could have continued to have a career, and I was widowed at 30. So I'm here now, 12 years later. I love it so much. And I love this round. Every time we do it, I love it even more. And I knew it's going to be a great idea when I started with Chantal. Looking forward to the conversation. Thank you so much.
Who's next?
I'll go next. So Rebecca or Beck, Stagg, and Debs, I love a karaoke. So we need to get a date in, as Chantal knows, I love a karaoke. So
let's do a karaoke once on LinkedIn Live.
Do a virtual one.
That'll be the Christmas edition.
Yes. My love of karaoke isn't met with the, you know, the quality and skill of voice. But I still love it, nevertheless. And just, I really echo everything you both said, actually, because, and I probably don't reflect on this enough, but yeah, how actually from a young age, ageism shows up for us as women. And I work with a lot of clients, actually, whose prime concern is around ageism and how it impacts them, and how, you know, supporting them through that. A little bit about my background. So I know we've introduced ourselves before. So my background is the world of HR, and after spending decades in an organization, took what was quite a daunting, scary step. And I was saying to Deb before I joined, you know, lots of ups and downs, emotional moments, but I'm now fully in the portfolio career, and I'm loving it and enjoying it, and getting to do a variety of work that I really enjoy. So, and looking forward to today's session. And I do need to pop off early. This is, you know, don't book me for diary management, because I'm not done well today. But I've got a client that I need to meet at 4:30. So
reality of portfolio career, Bex. Reality, right? So
we're
struggling.
And
so Bex was like, "Do I still come?" I was like, "Yes," because we were always true and honest. This is just what happens. And priority is client. Go on, Eileen.
Oh God, I feel like, how do I follow all of this amazingness that's shining today? In short, I quite similarly have fallen through the ranks of the people background. So I focus on people, comms and communications. People, comms and communications, people, culture and communications. I'm getting over neurovirus, so my brain is just clearly not in my head right now. And in short, my last perm stint was, I'm going to say, a really intense scale-up organisation that went through various fluctuations, both up and down. And I come off the back of that, and I had an ADHD diagnosis, supplementing a dyslexia diagnosis, mum of a 3-year-old, and thinking, what on earth am I doing? You know, when you're just sacrificing blood, sweat, tears, speaking to CEOs at 11 o'clock at night who clearly don't appreciate boundaries, and you just think, if I was on like maybe PLC level people leadership money, you'd kind of, and I had a nanny and that kind of stuff, you'd kind of think, yeah, this kind of works. When you're on that middle class level, it doesn't work because you don't have the infrastructure to make it work. So for want of a better phrase, I unmasked and said, I'm going to create a career that works for me. And I still want to do really good work, and I still want to help companies scale in the right way. And I've got an ambition of wanting to really shift the narrative for the next generation of business founders in understanding It's all about a people first strategy, and that's what's going to build a real sustainable business moving forward. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Hi everyone.
So yeah, I mean, I'm similar to Eileen actually. A lot of tech as well, but I know actually Eileen, you do some of that because I've been seeing your posts.
I'm a geek.
But what I want to add to, I think, the flavor is what's really interesting me in the ageism side is my little story from someone who lives in my village. She said to me, and it was just before I turned 30, and even just before I turned 30, said, "You're really lucky to still be working because I can't get back into the workforce." And she had just turned 40. She said, "They just put your CV in the bin after 40. So it doesn't even happen like it's after 40 because you become more expensive." And she's like, "You're so lucky you've done your doctorate and you're keeping this all up." And in my mind, it was, even then, how do I keep my niches sharp and these things and continuously learning, which links in what I think with Iona's mindset. So I hope to bring that today around the kind of what you can do. And then the second element that really interests me, and it spurred off something I think you said, Deb, and I think you were saying, Bex, you also mentioned young people. Iona mentioned young people. But I work on a lot of boards, and in those boards, I'm working with younger generations, and ageism is also affecting them. And I was kind of like shocked. But what they're getting is this undermining, you know, of what they bring. So I don't want to speak for them in terms of that, but I want to shed light on how this might be interesting for even people that also coming in at a younger level, if they want something meaningful, if they want something purposeful, if they want something to develop their niche at any age. I'm quite mindful of that, and maybe we have a Gen Z or a Gen Alpha or something on another stage, but I think it's just about being mindful for that.
That's a great idea for next time. I'm putting it in with the Gen Z speaker. I'm putting it.
So if I was to say, so if we kind of, those are the introductions, if I was to go through our what, so what, and now what, and you think about it in the flavor of ageism, I mean, I kind of mentioned my two ones. What was it for you? Or has there at any point been moments where you're like, this has really helped me to supersede ageism that I see and feel everywhere? What have you seen?
I'm gonna just do a short one because I have to go also in 15 minutes.
Okay.
What I've realized, especially in Switzerland, is that ageism is always an excuse. It is never, so every time that someone says it's your age, the reason is another one. It has never actually been the age. I've seen young men getting jobs where older experts didn't get women. I've seen men here now at the Dolder Hotel, they are in their 70s. They have their jobs and paid boards. So to be honest, the age has always been, in my experience, kind of a surface level excuse. And it was either they don't want to pay you personally. That's also a very personal redirect, let's say, not rejection, but redirection. So if this is the answer, it's because of your age. You can say you've never had this position before. Let's train you for everything. You see companies who are searching for people right now that they train them, and it's not the age. So in my experience, ageism has always been a bit of a surface level excuse for something underneath. And in terms of now what, I say, okay, I try to be very mindful what was actually the reason. Is there something I can do about that reason? So if it's my background or where I come from, my name, my difficult name, my gender, and I cannot solve them, that's on the side. But is there anything real that I can actually change? Is there a skill like social media, technology? Is there anything that I actually can do about? So that's how I navigate it.
So I love that. You're digging into what the system's telling you. You're digging into like, actually, they're doing this, but there's another reason. So what can I do about that? Yeah. And has that mainly been skills for you? Is there anything else?
It has been mindset, skills, and network. So mindset has always been to realize it's not, so it's not the age, yes, because I've seen people having jobs and making incredible income that are not smarter than me and they're not more experts than me. So it's the mindset. I've seen in terms of skills, that with the technology, there's huge opportunity for level up, especially in the new technology. This is why I follow Chantal. So it's mindset, skills, and networking. Networking means that how can I be close to powerful people? And it has never, to me, been in-person networkings, because I was not invited. I was not there as a social worker. I was not in those. But this is where LinkedIn, as you guys know, I repeat this a lot of times. Social media gets you so close to people who have decisions. So it has been networking in online part very, very important, and then take it offline. Of course, offline is a very powerful part to do too. So that's what I've been doing, and I'm going to listen now and maybe also get off afterwards, and looking forward to look at the replay, because I know it's going to be awesome. Thank you.
Can I go to Bex as well now, so that we get and then we'll just to make sure we capture your thoughts, Bex. Yeah, I think I guess I look at it a different way, and maybe this is the roles of assassin. I think it's part of my role in the past, but I still see it as my role going forward into a portfolio career, because actually I'm working with more clients to call it out, to raise awareness and to challenge, because sometimes I think people aren't, there's a lot of unconscious bias sometimes. And actually, I think when you call it out and you challenge people and you challenge their thinking, you challenge their perception, sometimes there's quite a bit of awareness going on there, and you might get that response straight away. Ooh, it might take time, it might take reflection, but I think it's actually my responsibility in my career, but also as a mum as well. I want my children to see that actually everything is possible. You can do whatever you want to, and we've got to call out when there's behaviours and attitudes that aren't acceptable. So a slightly different look on it, but that's what really sits with me, and I think that's important especially in the practice that I work in. Deb, going to invite you. I just want to make sure I got those two voices, because one's a bit older, the other one's going to go.
Totally got it. Love it. Both Iona and Bex, absolutely spot on. For me, it's a combination of a couple things. One, when I worked at Accenture, my age was never an issue. I was probably older than most of the people that I worked with, but it was never brought up. And so there may have been bias going on, but I never experienced that. So when I was suddenly laid off and thrust into the job market, and suddenly I'm seeing everyone ageism, entire careers being built around, trying to avoid ageism and all of that kind of thing. And I was like, what's going on with this? And for me, it's really a matter of self-fulfilling prophecy, or you kind of determine it yourself. If you really think that it's ageism, then it's going to be ageism, because that's what you're putting into the space. That's what you're seeing. And so you're going to see it everywhere. And honestly, using ageism as the reason for why you're not getting jobs is kind of an easy out, where you don't have to take the extra effort to really learn how the job market is working now. And I apologize if I offend anyone with that, but I'm always the one who's going to say the truth as I see it. I'm always the one that points out the turd in the punch bowl or the elephant in the room. And there's a certain element of, I believe this way, I'm not willing to budge on that. And so this is the way it is. And that mindset is going to get you in trouble every single time, or not in trouble, because you're going to be sitting there pointing at ages. Meanwhile, great opportunities are passing you by. And I agree with Bex too, around, I actually kind of like it when people I don't like it, because obviously I don't want people to experience ageism, but just like what's going on here in the US, all of this performative, stuff around DEI, the companies that are blatantly biased, they're showing their true colors now. Yep. So now we know the companies that you want to avoid. Now we know the ones that are doing culture performatively, and they're not actually walking their talk. And so I'm like, great, thank you for making that blatantly obvious. I'm not even going to bother trying to, work for you.
Absolutely.
I just want to, maybe.
I could really anchor on that and go on that with such a strong history in employer brand in particular. I think it used to drive me insane when you'd speak with these companies and the objective is, we want more Afro-Caribbeans in America and we want more women in Europe, and you'd get stupid. I remember sitting with one company, obviously we're not going to name names here, but there was one hiring manager that sat down and said, we want a woman to fill this role. Okay, let's break this down. We're looking for a technical architect, and you expect them to have 15 years worth of experience and graduated from a red brick university. And this was 10 years ago. Let's rewind back 15 years. Were there women even in computer science in education? For goodness sake, people, come on. So I think it's sometimes when it's that behavior of, it's the performative nature, it's we need to tick a box. And I think, you know, our good old orange friend on the other side of the world at the moment, calling it, well, yeah, obviously, but, you know, I'm being polite to some extent here, Chantal. I'm trying to be polite. What is the acronym he used? Didn't earn it, you know, that how it's abbreviated to. And I think the point is, no, there's a difference between having tokenism and having real genuine diversity in an organization that powers innovation with a different mindset. And I think that's where we're focusing on here with, for me, ageism comes in so importantly, because it's a bucket of individuals that offer wisdom, they offer different perspectives, they offer different reference points. And if you've got a 50-year-old that has walked the walk for the last 50 years and you've got a 21-year-old, why would they not learn more from that individual, despite how mature and amazing the 21-year-old is? And they might have a level of maturity at a 30-year-old. That's great, wonderful. Let's enhance that. And I think for me at the moment, that's the fear that I have, is we've got a community of amazing people looking for work. And to Chantal's point earlier, there is this, well, you are too expensive. Well, no, you're not. You're not paying me for 10 minutes worth of work. You're paying me for that 10 minutes plus the last 20 years worth of reference points. So you decide where the value is. And I think that that's really the conversation that needs to be had more.
But I think that's what you can do in a portfolio career, right? Because you're playing on outcomes as to kind of bring back to how you supersede the cracks. I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate with Deb, because she's on the podium about there's no such thing as ageism, but then we're saying, so for me, it is about systems showing how they always truly were created. So I think there is an ageism that exists, but it's around the constructs of the system which make it more expensive. So if I think about the lady, my friend, let's call her Sarah, for her, it was my health insurance and my social contributions on top from my employer become more expensive when I'm over 40. So the decision for them to hire me makes it more expensive. So there we have something structurally there that makes it very challenging. These things don't remove themselves, but you can't change the system. Where I think the other side of the equation of what we're saying is when you see that it is about, and what she was saying to me is, how are you keeping yourself fresh? How are you keeping yourself up to date? But you can show that actually I'm worth paying that amount, which is a little bit to your point, Eileen, which is around, yeah, that's those last 20, points, reference points. So I think there's something around portfolio career that you get to the point of, do I keep applying for those jobs where you can't see my worth? You need to go.
Yes, I need to go. And because it was so interesting, I had a client, my last client who I was working with for the portfolio career. They were applying for beginner jobs because they were transition. They wanted to do a career change at 40. So they were planning on beginner jobs with 20 years old, and they did not have expert skills in that positions. So what they were, I'm always on time. I'm good with clients, and these were like beginner level skills, but in a different area, they were an expert already. They were just applying in the same pool with young people, and the skills were, if you have the same pool and skills are, I want time and I can do the administration very well, then they will take the one that is cheaper because you offer similar skills. So for everyone who is 40 and upwards, for mid-level, for transitions, one of those now what is to say, where am I an expert? Where can I have been advisory? where can I be highly paid? Where is my high ticket? And also, how can I copyright that expertise? It's really like a sales expertise for myself as a personal brand. I need to write this different, understand it differently myself, write it differently, and never apply with entry-level jobs with 20-year-olds. Even if I do those skills exactly the way, very good, of course, includes not 20 years, I've been on time 20 years, it's still, in terms of payment, not going to make a difference for the employee. They're going to take the cheaper employee. It's a business. It's a business.
It's obvious business.
It's a business, no? Yeah. So I would recommend in the portfolio career to be very mindful at 40, 50 to not go for entry levels unless they are highly sought after and you get that job quick. So maybe it's AI right now, and you learned AI in the last year, and you're 50 years old, and you're an early adapter, you're highly creative, you're super techy, and then you go for those jobs because they are looking for thousands of people. Yes, then do entry level, that's amazing. But if not, then go learn copywriting for yourself, learn how to say I am an X, and how to show the impact of your work, monetary impact. Yes. So I think, yes, we are amazing as persons, but because it's a business, it's a market, we need to learn how to show the monetary impact of working with us. I love you guys. Thank you so much. See you next time. Looking to the replay. Bye.
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure that y'all didn't think, I mean, I know ageism exists. I'm very aware that ageism exists. I mean, there's no doubt that it does. My point is, if you're using that as the reason why you're not finding work, that's where you're running into issues. Like if that's the primary reason.
I think we're agreeing. Well, not I think we are agreeing with you. It was for me around like just presenting those two sides and then giving people, I always want to give people some honest takeaways. So I think Iona gave some brilliant takeaways. Just to step back into the flow was, and actually to build upon what she said, I think that there are skills, and it's really interesting for me when people 40, 50, but on the other side aren't necessarily selected, because a lot of these skills, they're new. No one's an expert in them.
Exactly.
There's nothing that you can't learn. And I think there is something about navigating and finding where's not only my passion, but where do I have a natural talent for? There is something innately in you. And I think when you're 40, at least 40, you know who you are.
You know.
Yeah, you know.
And so you know that actually, you know what? I'm really good at pattern recognition. I can solve problems like anything, and it really quick. So what does that mean? And where is it that I can then grow and adapt that in AI or in different tools? And Deb, I know you can probably go into some tools that that you're using. So if I'm using Perplexity to like go into deep research, if I'm then developing my own GenAI, so I learned to do Python coding, for example, it's really, as I think I've said to you, Eileen, before, my coding is really crap, it's 𝗪𝗁, but I can navigate my way around, and I know what a Boolean is, I know what a function is, and at my age, I'm no way as good as my 14-year-old daughter. But being able to understand these things, there's nothing that when you're older, it doesn't mean that you can't learn.
Yes.
But in learning, I've applied the wisdom of all the problems that I've seen and applied that to my projects to be able to solve problems for them. And as I was speaking to Deb, and I had a little chat before, I don't know, I think I've done a post on it before, you get the M-type skills.
Yes.
In the old days, we used to go, oh, you just got one skill, or you've got T-shaped skills, as in you can think with breadth and you
go deep in one.
Right? And I remember people used to be very perplexed by me. They were like, how is it that you do this all? I'm like, that's just me. Then I came across M-type skills. And I think as you get older, if you've worked in Accenture for 24 years, or you've worked, as you've done, Eileen.
That is definitely.
That, I'm actually really good at this level. I'm really good at this. I'm really good at this. And I think in a portfolio career, the joy of succeeding the cracks is understanding what you're good at, collecting your case studies and being able to convey that commercial piece. Because you have to say, well, this is the bottom line impact of what I can do. And the refining it, not just in terms of what you brought with your 20 reference points there, but being future forward and refining it in terms of, actually, this would be, you know, hyper aligned, or I know Deb wants to talk now.
One thing I want to throw into the wrench, because what you're saying is absolutely spot on. But there's a report that just came out recently around skills. And I don't know if you saw, it's this huge ass report, a lot of graphs and everything. Of course, I skimmed through it and then I was like, here, ChatGPT, summarize this for me. And basically what it was saying is that skills, they're now realizing that skills are nested. They're like a ladder.
Yes.
And if there are major foundation skills that you never learned for whatever reason, you can reach the level of manager, senior manager, but you're going to be crap at it because you're missing some of those foundational skills. And so if you look at anyone who's in a place with their career where it's like, I can't seem to break through to the next level, or I can't, the chances may be that there's some really important skill that you're somehow missing in your scaffolding or in your ladder of skills that is causing that to happen. So now I'm looking at
put that on after the call.
Yeah,
I will. I'm actually writing a series. I'm actually writing a series of posts on it because I find it incredibly fascinating. And to me, that's actually good news, because now these people that I'm talking to who are my age or older, who are languishing, unemployed for 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years, not able to get that job, I can actually be like, hey, let's come up with a concrete plan. Maybe there's some skills here that you haven't done that adding those in will make a difference. And yeah, so I will do that definitely.
I think it works. That really works well if you're looking at the perm space in particular. So if you're looking for that permanent role, I totally agree. I think you do hit a certain ceiling and there is a gap somewhere, or sometimes you've been catapulted into a senior role and we don't sense this, you're pretty shit at it, and we've all seen shit senior leaders and they evidently have one of those scaffolding elements missing. Let's be honest. So I totally agree with that. However, with that being said, I think when you get into the portfolio world, you have more of an opportunity to really lean into what you're good at. So it might be a bit of a leaning tower of Pisa, but that's because your skill set sits in that leaning tower of Pisa. And I think that that's the point. It's the beauty of that flexibility, or that little bit of being a nomad, means that you can go and just deliver that specialism and not worry about it. And that is why
it is,
you know,
because you worked for a company, and like I worked for Accenture for 24 years. They only paid for like 20, they only wanted 20 to 30% of the skills that I had at my disposal.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I had all these skills going to waste, these things that I absolutely adore doing, that light me up, that give me so much joy. And they weren't going to pay me for it. So it's really the difference between building your life around your job and building a job that fits your life is really the difference with the portfolio.
I love that.
And you, actually, I remember doing like a fishbone about, and I took my husband, he's like, you've got like a world domination plan.
That sounds accurate, Chantal.
I think like one of the first things for me, if you're listening and you want to think about portfolio careers, like there is a mindset shift in, before your organization was kind of controlling what you had access or the skills or capability you want to do. But yes, they want to arguably grow potential, right? And but that you're there for a reason, right? Moving to a portfolio career is the opportunity to like go, oh my gosh, what could I do? And then you pull on all these different things, be it the leaning tower of Pisa and the ladders, because it might even give you inspiration, but you're really going through and you're trying to find, well, looking back, what were the projects where I really thrived, that I aced, that I absolutely loved, that I could do? What are the things that I really want to do? And picking that energy up and then speaking with people about it. Because I do think like the speaking with people about it, they get to understand, that's what you're doing. That's what Chantal's doing. That's what Eileen's doing. That's what, Deb, I know you're in the discovery moment as well at the moment, right? So it's like, well, that's what you're doing, but you're actually just reshaping your life from going from the 20% that you were doing before to the full suitcase of Deb.
Yeah.
But it's so freaking awesome. Like the feeling of self-expression, that you get from doing this. But and I don't want to underestimate the fact that there is a significant mind shift that needs to happen.
Yeah.
There's a mind shift from being a full-time employee and what that means to not being a full-time employee and creating your own opportunities and creating your life around that. It's a very different, and there's some people that don't want to do it. And that's fine.
That's okay.
It's not for everyone. And that's totally fine. But for those of you who do know, like, here's the thing that I love about Gen Z. God, I love Gen Z. They took a look at the system and they were like, why is it like this? Like, why are you, you know, and when I grew up, it was like, you go to school, you get a degree, you work for this company, you work for them forever. You move your way up the ladder, you do all those. And now I'm sitting back going, why? And I've spent how many years becoming an expert? Like, I'm an expert in talent supply chain, which is one of the most niche parts of HR that you can possibly imagine. And looking back on it, it's like, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be in learning development. I wanted to see faces light up when they understood something, but that wasn't what the company was going to pay me for. So now I get to actually do the things that light me up, like every day for me. Here, I'll tell you right now, I haven't had a paycheck in over a month. We're looking at going, hopefully the tax return comes soon so we can pay the mortgage next month. I mean, there's a sense of uncertainty, but I got to tell you, I'm happier now. I look forward to getting up every morning. I love Monday. I'm almost like, can the weekend be over so that we can do Monday again? Because it's just so much freaking fun.
I mean, for me, it's really interesting as well, because once you do align to that, I had another call this morning, Eileen, to do a big conference. And it's like, I've been like, there's so many things where you actually just then start to attract, because people see like, you're really good at that. Hey, I want you to do this in, you know, humans and AI. And so I think that there is an instability, like, and we've been honest about that before. It's like, it's not for everyone, because let's face it, there's not the stability of a regular paycheck. But there is a complete freedom and happiness to being able to wake up as you just described it in the morning. But you have to be strategic about balancing the relationships, the visibility of what you're doing, and actually doing the roles.
You got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
You know, growth only. And here's the thing that I run into with a lot of people, and I had an issue with, is that I loved comfort. And the reason I stayed at the company that I was at was because it was comfortable. And even though I was bored, and even though I felt like a part of me was like, oh, there's so much I could be doing. And maybe all my extra money was spent on trips and purchases and stuff like that, because that was how I made myself feel better about the fact that I'm stagnant and bored in my role. But growth only happens in the space where you're uncomfortable. And it's learning to be okay with that being uncomfortable, and being comfortable with being uncomfortable is kind of where I'm in right now. And then there's also, for me, the big switch was when I finally determined to trust myself. Like, I hadn't realized how much I'd been doubting myself and how much I'd been doubting my value and doubting my worth, especially if you get laid off from a company. Because it happens for anyone. But when you're laid off, there's a whole lot of like, I didn't choose this. This was, you know, done to me. And so I realized, like, last September or whatever, I was like, you know what? I was in this space of like, I'm going to start doing radical acceptance. I'm just going to accept the stuff that's on my calendar. I'm just going to talk to these people, even though I'm an introvert, and talking to people is like, I'm just going to take these calls. I'm going to talk to these people. I'm going to do these things that make me incredibly uncomfortable, because I trust myself that there's something on the other side. And when I started to trust myself, I'm getting chills right now. It's like the universe fell into place. Made that conscious decision to be like, you know what, Deb, you've made it to the age of 55 thus far. You've had a pretty decent career. You have a home. You have a husband who loves you. You got cats that love you. You got a circle of friends who, for some reason, love to spend time with you. I'm just going to trust that I know what I'm doing.
You're so right. I think there's a lot of though discomfort right now, so there's no better time than any. What I will say is that for me, it was alongside my job initially, so I didn't have that big you know, cut. So that is possible, like, if you're thinking about it and you're bored at your job, because I was bored as well, and I think it was the autistic ADHD part of me, right? I needed the so I was like, and for me, my managers had always said, you do like a job of 4 people, like 4 people. So I'm like, oh, why don't I this other stuff as well. So there is the possibility that if you're thinking of something, if you have the capacity, if you're that person, I mean, don't burn yourself if you don't, but you know who you are if you are that person. If you have the capacity, you know, why not have that alongside as the other option that you can have? And then it just really just come with trust. There's a point where you just go, well, for me, it was like also though, but for portfolio careers, now or never. Because what if not now, then when? The market is just so crap. You know, if not now, then when?
I mean, that's where we're headed right now, y'all. I mean, you know, I'm also ADHD. Are all three of us ADHD? Is that what the deal is right now? All three of us are?
Yeah, I think that, and I can see it vibing because we've bounced quite comfortably over several topics. So I just hope the audience is following okay. But if you're not neurotypical, you'll probably be fine following this conversation.
Well, and because I was just diagnosed in December, y'all. So I have masked my entire life. I didn't realize that that's what I was doing because I did not have it. And so for me, there's been this incredible sense of freedom in realizing that, oh, this diagnosis, and somehow it gave me permission to let some of the wilder ideas that I've always had kind of. And I swear to God, with ADHD, I feel like I can see the future. And what I'm seeing right now is that we are at the end of the industrial age, and we are entering the AI age. And the industrial age was built on, you know, hierarchy. It was built on patriarchy. It was built on all of these things.
Do you also know, sorry to, I'm not cutting the question, hold that, just pin that thought. I found out the other day, the actual invention of our schooling system as we know it was designed by Rockefeller.
Yeah.
And the objective behind wanting to set our schooling system as it is today was purely to create compliant
worker
and
bees.
subordinate worker bees.
Yep.
So if you look at the structure, and then we wonder why, when we have these graduate programs, my goodness, there's no critical thinking here. No one encourages innovation. Why does this generation not think for themselves when we give them a problem? Because we've not set them up for success to do that.
We built the system where success means getting A's, you know, it means getting A's, it means getting a degree, it means getting that shiny title or getting that, you know, whatever. That's what we built success on, rather than, wow, I feel like a contributing human. I'm living a life I love, and I'm, you know, passing that on to my children. You know, the rebels are always kind of looked at, oh, they're not with the system and blah, 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 blah. It's like, you know what? Nothing happens unless someone actually rebels against it and says, hey, you know what? I have an idea.
That's super
exactly.
I'm, you know, I'm writing this book at the moment as well. And I was interviewing another teacher. I put a post on a teacher, but another teacher. And it's really interesting what the teachers think of AI, but they were talking about like how they've still got the same textbooks that have been there for years. And it's all about memorization. So when we talk about the compliance and the lack of critical thinking, when people come into the companies, we're kind of breeding like compliance and just being able to think in a box, but we want something different in the outcome when we get within the companies, which might be why we end up also going into the portfolio career. It's like you can critically think, you can challenge. It's a bit, when I first moved to consulting, and Deb, I don't know if you experienced this with Accenture, because I was in industry first. And you do wear two different hats. You have the privilege of wearing the hat where they're paying for you. So there is that more of the challenger piece. And I do feel that with portfolio career as well, is you're someone coming in, adding value, and you need to add value really quick, right? So there's that hat that you wear where you are providing that critical thinking. So if you're naturally affiliated with that, where you ask the challenging questions, where you are the person that can show that elephant in the room, get them to think about the elephant in the room and solve the elephant in the room. That is something really powerful if you have the ability to do that, and why you would even enter that. And that is the value and pricing for the value of that.
Yes. And what's fascinating to me, so, and I don't know if you all come from an HR background, but HR has always been like, we're never going to get a seat at the table. We're always kind of under, you know, CFO or COO, or nobody ever listens to HR. And, we don't get any, nobody gives us any budget or anything like that. And what's happening now with portfolio careers and with fractional careers is that these brilliant HR people who were in-house for years and years and years are coming into other companies. And because they're a consultant, because they're coming in from outside, they're being listened to and their opinion is being treated differently than if they would have stayed in-house for 20 freaking years. And it's so ironic, but it's so true. And this is how we're going to get the system to work for us.
Yes.
Get organizations to realize, you know what, you got to stop downplaying your people function, because that really is the heart of your business. You keep saying it is, but you're not acting like it is. Let's actually put that, you know, put that where your mouth is, put your money where your mouth is, and actually treat it that way.
I will say one of the interesting things though is not all companies are there yet.
I agree with.
So I think yes, Deb, I'm totally with you in the passion. What I see is there is a evolution to them getting there into that turning point. Some are, but some
see
aren't.
that evolution is going to be accelerated now. So
I agree.
The industrial age, and it took like 40 years for all of the concepts of building these hierarchical things and having factories and whatever. We're in the AI age now, baby. It's going a lot faster.
And that accelerates it, right?
Yes.
Because you can't, I mean, the amount of money that's going into AI and the amount of reports that have come out in however many years from certain big fours that have said, you only get 15% to scale. You can't keep having that non-return on ROI. And the reason is because it's transformation. It's people, you know, it's
actual transformation. It's not this change that you've been talking about where you're using still the same structures and just moving them around and calling it transformation. This is actual transformation where something goes from here to here and it doesn't look at all the same, but that's an actual transformation. I get so irritated when people, you know, label something as transformation. When you look at the definition of the word transformation, and it's literally, it's like a butterfly, like a pupa that's in a thing, and it changes shape and then it comes out and it's not what you would have expected because it's a complete transformation. But Chantel, you are absolutely correct. But here's my ADHD soothsayer thing. The businesses that are looking at that, the businesses that are really on board, and there aren't that many of them. And from what I've seen, they tend to be in Europe and they tend to be startups. That's just what I'm saying. They're looking at the future of work. They're looking at the future of employment. They're seeing the writing on the wall. And these big ass companies that keep trying to reinforce working like 2010, 2011, 2012, they're change blindness right now. They're not seeing what's happening. And so in the next 5 years, there's a rubber's going to hit the road and they're going to have a rude awakening that they're not going to be able to survive in the AI age if they don't start treating their people like people instead of a widget or a line on a spreadsheet. They're going to have to realize it because the AI age is going to require us to be more human than ever.
I agree with you on that entirely, because I think you will see that shift happen in 5 years. But I think what you will find more in the next decade is we will have the largest workforce that is not of a baby boomer ever within the next 10 years. And a large proportion of that is Gen Z, who are digital natives, more than millennials. So we've got a whole community here that are well ahead of the curve. Will be able to outcode most of the teams that we already have that are sitting in comfortably. They'll be able to use AI to definitely upskill by miles. They'll be able to measure their own productivity to say, you want to get rid of me? Are you sure? If you look at those metrics,
and they value autonomy. They want a choice. So we're going to have, it's going to be more, here's the deal, folks. If you're still stuck in like, oh, I only work in this country and this, no. The future in the next 5 to 10 years, it's global, baby.
It's nomadic.
We're going to have people working for companies all over the freaking world. So get comfortable with it now. And the other thing that I have to, and sorry, I'm just so on my soapbox here, and you all are so sweet to listen to me with this. Like I have this thing around all of these companies. So we're noticing that AI adoption is lagging, and you know, all the companies are like, well, the workers need to do that, blah blah. And of course, they're not setting up any infrastructure to have that happen. They're not doing anything, you know, to have that happen, and they're trying to get people to innovate on top of a culture built of fear. And do humans really want to innovate if they're afraid? Hell no. They're not going to do that. So, you know, I'm looking at, and I'm actually looking at this as something as an offering. Like I could do this for business because Chantel, I'm in that space still. I'm like investigating. What am I good at? What do I want to do going forward? You know, I have my business name, The Unexamined Mind. And I'm like, it originally came out of, you know, I want people to realize that everything that they need in their life to succeed, they already have it. They just have barriers that they've placed, whether they realize that they did it or not, to actually do that. But we're very resistant as humans. I don't know why. I don't have a psychology degree about looking at these things. And I was like, well, what if we could make it fun? Because I'm so tired of work, this false sense of urgency and emergency that is in everything. Like we're not doing brain surgery here, folks. People are not on a table about to die if you don't send that email at this point. And yet this is what we've built, this sense of urgency and emergency and this fear. And yet we expect humans to like innovate and be excited about that, you know, on top of that. Yeah, no, not going to happen. So I'm just really, I'm looking at how can we make AI approachable? Because I've been doing it now for 6 months. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't have been as far as I am with my business if it wasn't for AI. That is like my buddy. That's like
I have some secret sources on that, but in terms of what I'm thinking, in terms of if we're thinking back to giving people kind of key things around how to then find the cracks if they were facing ageism. One of the things for me as we're talking is that when we talk transformation, we have so much experience to see the pitfalls, and it's not just from a HR lens, that's also from a technology. Many of my friends are like CIOs, or they've seen it, they've seen the hurdles, and yes, it's in a new context, the world has changed, but there's so much wisdom there that could really address these challenges, like you talk about fear, right? Like, and if we actually opened up to these people, then you would actually be able to start to navigate these things and see transformation. So I think that people that want to enter the space using that wisdom, knowing that I know you're saying I know we're saying 5 years and it's evolving. I think the conversations are now. And the conversations are now for, do you want to be that organization that isn't going to, or do you want to be this organization, right? And finding those organizations and finding where your wisdom can be placed. And if when you have those conversations, you find those wisdoms. And I think you open up a really good piece, Deb, and I think we've had that conversation before on the career portfolio, is it's not always about the big organizations. It's also about the SMEs and the startups. Because often
the backbone of most economies, the SMEs, right? The backbone of the economy is not the corporate PLCs. It is the small and medium businesses. And I think that's another thing that drives me insane, is this assumption that it is all of these big conglomerates. It's not. It's your SMEs that keep our countries going and our economy spinning.
So find, and if you listen to the last episode, we were like, how do you even build relationships and get the business and win the work? There's a lot in there. But as it's come up again, and as I was listening to everyone, I want people to realize, like, how do you supersede those cracks? Don't just think you're going to the big ones. Go into the hubs, the SMEs, the startups, the spaces. Have the conversations, because they would totally welcome, your wisdom to help them navigate that.
And that's a massive gap to supersede ageism. Like, we really need to stress that. Huge.
We have 5 generations in the workforce right now. First time in history, we've had 5 different generations. And I'm actually going to start a podcast with a friend of mine, Molly, she's a she's a millennial Gen Z kind of cusp. And then there's me, like solid Gen X. And it's literally going to be called Generations, except there's going to be an R and an 8 in there, because we got to be hip,
You need to put on the LinkedIn.
You need to share that with us.
We haven't started it yet. It's all just her
name, so people can search it later on Spotify. We want it. We want to be able to reference back to you, Deb.
Because this is what we got to figure out a way for all of us to work together, because there is so much value. And then we've got the Gen Zs who've never worked in an office before, because they came up during the pandemic, and they don't know the mores and the ways to act in obviously, because they've never had to. So there's this mentorship that could happen, this absolutely gorgeous mentorship that could happen between people of generations. And we got to get rid of the media that's constantly putting us, because the media is trying to get us to fight with each other and try to go, oh, it's the millennials, oh, it's the Gen Z, and the Gen Zers like boomer, and so it's like, we got to get past that and really see that underneath all of these false divisions that have been created, at heart, we're all humans and we all pretty much want the same thing. So
and isn't that then applicable to every diverse subsection of society, right?
Yes.
Where these parallels are so much stronger than these divisions that have been caused. The division because of your gender, the division because of your race, because of
your
where
age.
you've grown up, because of your age. And this is the point, right? It all leads back
We're all
to
human made.
the unnecessary.
We're not biologically given to that. Biologically, we're gregarious. We're people who want to be around other humans. That's who we are. Like at a cellular level, I would say, again, my degree's in English. I have a bachelor's degree from a liberal arts college in Minnesota called 𝗵𝗿𝗄𝗃 College. So, I don't know the biology for sure, but I do know people because I've been around them for a while. And all of these things that we put into place, even the divisions of country, the divisions of an ocean, all of these are like, some of them are actual, okay, this is a physical barrier. Yeah, get that. But some of these other things around culture, around language, around all of those things, they're just things that we've created. And if we're intentional about it, we can get rid of them.
Yeah. I just want you to finish your thought, and then I want us to sum up what we want people to take away.
My thought that I was leading to is I think the biggest challenge we're actually going to see with all of these cracks across various different diversity pools is actually the epidemic of loneliness. And I think that is something with technology creeping in and us integrating ourselves, regardless of who we are, with AI, I can see that will probably be our biggest challenge that we will see probably in 10 years time. That was my lens forward. But biggest takeaway for me is navigating ageism by leaning into what you do best and what makes you sit up.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that, Island. And I'm pronouncing, is it Eileen?
Eileen is fine.
Eileen, okay.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I'm sorry. I look at your name and I want to say Eileen.
Yeah, everyone does.
I'm Minnesotan, don't you know? We say all those vowels. What you said about loneliness, oh my God, that is like huge. And I've been telling I write a newsletter a couple times a week because I have so much sarcasm in me that I can't keep it inside. And so I have to put it out. And it is around HR people in particular, but because that's just who I know, but everyone, find your community and actually talk to them. And the other thing I would say is, yes, ageism exists. Yes, you have a lot of fear around things, but you need to act. Even with the fear, take action, because that is the only way the world moves, and the only way your life moves is by taking action. And it doesn't have to be a huge action. You don't have to quit your job or do whatever, but like identify maybe one little micro action that if you did it today would make a difference, and make a point of doing one little micro action a day towards whatever it is that you want. That's it for me.
I think for me, the majority we've discussed as ever is mindset. It's like so much mindset. Around how we need to shift thinking about how we've been conditioned from school. I did not know that the Rockefeller stuff from school, how we're conditioned in the workplace, that if you're making that transition and you were only doing 20%, but you have this now beautiful world that can open up to you, that's amazing. However, you need to be strategic about it, right? So think about the different things we mentioned, from the M-shaped skills through to the different points. You can really start having a strategy around how you essentially take that to market, because you are your own business, but it's that wisdom to market, and there is the possibility to supersede the cracks with that wisdom. And the time for us obviously is now, but I really do see that the old way of working is never coming back. What I see from the chatter, from my friends, from different things going on, is this is a totally different shift as well in terms of time. That means that we need to shift our mindset.
Yes. Exactly.
I agree.
Chantel, I'm living in a world of abundance right now, and I have been operating out of the mindset of abundance, which is a direct contrast to the way businesses are built, which are built on scarcity. They're built on competition. They're built on that. And I'm not. I'm living in a world of abundance. I'm living in a world of, acceptance, and growth. I'm looking at things that I'm questioning everything now. I'm looking at places where I assume things, like I assume that it's my age that gets in the way. Well, is that really it? Let me investigate it a little bit. Just question everything.
So actually, I think that abundance really clicks with me, because one of the things I got into was gardening, and some people know I'm quite a radical gardener as well. So it's just even this mindset of abundance, like bringing it into all of your life and knowing that you can grow as much as you want, and there's enough for everyone, which is very different to the corporate piece.
The universe is not pie. There's plenty for everyone.
Exactly. I was just on a call before this with someone, and we were looking at how can we collaborate, right? Yeah. And the amount of collaboration in the portfolio career space is huge. Yeah, you're nodding your head, right? Because it's like we don't operate from a point of scarcity. We're like, okay, so what's your lens? What's your lens? And how are the synergies? And how can we help each other? How can we introduce you into that? And so this mindset shift is actually quite significant around there. And that comes with community, with what you were saying, because the more you build the community, the more you build the collaboration with that mindset. Yeah, like you say, it's not.
You're absolutely right, Chantel, that the I didn't even make that connection. You got the connection between the community and abundance. They walk hand in hand. It's like totally connected. Love it. Y'all, thank you so much for inviting me. I had a blast.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Next time I'm in the States, I'm going to come and say hi. Thank you everyone for listening. We had a lot of comments. I tried to put them up. We are going to put some comments in the comments themselves, linking to Deb's the research you mentioned, or any posts that you're going to put out about that.
Yep.
The podcast. And I don't know if there's anything on the Rockefeller study. That's really interesting as well.
That is fascinating. Actually,
I'll find some bits and I'll pop some links in just for.
We'll ask your favorite AI assistant about it.
And name that assistant. I asked mine whether it wanted to be named, and it came up with Nova, and I was like, no, I'm not feeling that name. But there we are. I know that we're over. It was an absolute pleasure.
Okay, bye everyone. Bye.
I love you both. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Bye.